All right. Welcome, everyone. Can I get a thumbs up or a yes in the chat if you can hear me? Thank you, Michael. Good to confirm before we get started, right? Great to see you all here. If you don't already know me, my name is Anne-Marie McLean, and I am one of our research librarians here at the University of the Cumberland. I work specifically with dissertation students, so I am here at your disposal throughout your time as a student and doing your dissertation to be a guide and help you navigate all of the resources that the Cumberland's Library has to offer. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. The first challenge is finding the library. I don't mean physically. You guys are probably not going to be coming to campus a lot, but you will be needing to find the library online, including its resources and information about its services. So there are a couple of ways to do that. The first way I'm going to show you is directly from the ucumberlands.edu page. So if you go to this URL or just search for University of the Cumberlands, you'll land here. You are going to navigate to Academics at the top right. And you can find the library down here under Grover M. Hermann Library. So again, that is Academics and Grover M. Hermann Library. Michael, did you have a question?
Yes, sorry to interrupt. My screen, and it may be my computer, but my screen is not showing. It's showing like the University of Cumberland, some kind of media thing. Is everyone seeing the same?
Okay,
Or
you're not seeing when I click Academics, you're not seeing a menu come up?
no?
Okay. Is everybody else having the same issue? Okay.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what that's about. I don't know if
Yeah.
rejoining the session might help.
Yeah, let me do that. Okay, you go ahead and I'll drop off and come back on.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks,
All
sorry.
right. Oh, no worries at all. And if anybody else, if you guys have problems or can't see something, please feel free to raise your hand or give me a note in the chat because this session is meant for you, so I need you to be able to see it and hear it, right? All right, so we found the library the first way through going to the UCumberland's homepage, Academics, and Grover M. Hermann Library. You can also use a short URL, which is ucumberlands.edu/library, or you can Google University of the Cumberland's Library, and you will find us there too. So many ways to navigate to the library. If you forget any of these other ones, just Google us and you will find us. So I'm going to jump to this menu, navigate down. We are called the Grover M. Hermann Library, and I'm going to click here. You will land on this page. This actually is not the page that I would recommend you bookmark. It is the official library page for the university website, and there are some resources down this way, but you have to scroll a lot and it's not the most user-friendly. So what we actually recommend is that you take advantage of this big blue button. That is going to get you to all of the links and all of the resources that I talk about today. So this box actually does connect right to our library catalog. But if you want to find links to things like databases, research guides, policies, procedures, you're going to want to click on this big blue button. So make that your friend. I'm going to go ahead and click on that button. And we land here on the library homepage. So this page is the one that I recommend you bookmark. I'm going to go ahead and put the URL right here in the chat. and you can bookmark that, write it down, make yourself a cheat sheet. That is where I recommend you start anytime you are doing research or trying to find a library resource. So a quick little tour of this page. We have some important links here on the left-hand side. We have a box for finding resources. We have a box for staying connected and one for library hours. These hours are going to reflect when the physical library is open. So keep in mind that does not mean when a librarian is necessarily going to be on call. For example, during the semester, we're open till midnight. We librarians don't stay until midnight. However, on business days, Monday through Thursday, we are here from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then Fridays, we are here from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that goes for all of the university. If you're ever trying to get in touch with the office, Fridays, we usually go until 12 p.m. So we will reflect any times we are closed for holidays. For example, you see we were closed here on Memorial Day. And that's where you can find our hours. I recommend looking here and not at Google. Google sometimes gets a little glitchy and pulls incorrect hours. Our Stay Connected box is going to connect you to our Facebook and Instagram account. This account not only includes information about the library, but also information from our Learning Commons, which is a tutoring hub that's also located in our building. So I really recommend that you follow us. I'm going to post a lot of information about events, for example, these kind of orientations, about new resources, new books, new publications, tools that you might not know exist that we were highlighting, and even more. So that is a great way to follow us here on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to get to this Find Resource box in a second. Let's take a look over here at the left-hand side. You can learn a little bit more about the library by clicking here. We won't look at that tonight because we have a lot to get through. Ask a librarian. This is how you're going to get in touch with us. You can click here and you will get to this form. I'm going to go ahead and put this link in the chat one more time for anybody who's just hopping on. That's where we are right now. And I have just clicked Ask a Librarian here on the left-hand side. So this form, first of all, introduces you to the librarians on staff. We have our lovely director, Jan Wren. She also handles ILL. Reference and instruction librarian, Carrie Bird, who works with our undergraduates and master's students. Our technical services librarian, Whitney Taylor, who handles all the stuff on the back end that helps you guys be able to see our resources online. And then finally, your friendly neighborhood dissertation librarian, myself. All of our contact information is here. Feel free to use that if you want. The fastest way to contact us is not to email us directly, but to use this form. What happens with this form is that it generates a message that goes out to all of the librarians. So whoever happens to be looking at the time and can answer the quickest will grab that question and respond to you. Typically within 24 hours. Keep in mind that this might be delayed on holidays and weekends. So if you're looking to get an answer to a question and get some work done over the weekend, I would recommend asking us probably on a Thursday to make sure you get your response before that weekend hits. So this form has a couple of different things you'll be required to put in, your name, what type of student you are, a couple of other questions. It has an option for sort of scheduling a research consultation. So if it's not a question you want answered over email, we can set up a time to meet one-on-one. We can do it over the phone. I prefer to do a Teams meeting so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Otherwise, it's very hard to get on the same page. No pun intended. And then your topic and what resource are you trying to use. Like I said, when you submit this form, it is going to go to all of us librarians, and typically I will grab dissertation questions if I see them first, since I directly work with you guys, but any of us can answer any question. We are all trained in the same way. You will also notice the library chat button on the right-hand side. This is great for any quick questions like, I forgot where this link was, or what are your hours today, or any quick question. If you click on it, it actually opens up a little chat bot that is programmed with some FAQs. So if you say, yes, I need more help, for example, it's going to give you a few options. These are things that people ask quite frequently, and we've programmed those answers into those, just like with a lot of chat services you'll see nowadays. If none of these are your question, you can say, I have a different question, submit, and then it will give you an option to talk to a person. This will be staffed typically 9 to 5. So when you click I want to talk to a person, it's going to check and see if someone is online. As you can see, no one is right now. I'm the only librarian here, and I didn't want to monitor it while I was teaching you. So then it's going to just direct you back to this form. If someone is online, they will respond and you can chat live and hopefully get your question answered. If it's something more involved, I might say, hey, let's set up a consultation, and we would go about answering your question that way. So that is the chat. Important to note, it is not the same as going to the university homepage and using this chat. That goes to someone else. It does not go to the library. So not this chat, but the one that is on the actual library page. Library chat is the one you want to use. So that is how you get in touch with us. Many ways to do so, and please don't hesitate to. Our job is primarily to help you guys and answer whatever questions you have. So don't feel shy. Go ahead and submit these, and we will get it taken care of, whatever you need. Let me X out of this, and we're back to our welcome to the library page. Again, on this left-hand side, we're going to take a look at citation help. You are doing research. You will have citation questions. That's fine. If you click this button, it is going to take you to library resources about doing citations. So, for example, if you're doing APA, it's going to take you to a link for the online style guide. It's going to give you a link to a citation management software created by the APA. And similarly for Chicago, MLA, and all those other fun and exciting citation styles. If you need help from a person, if you don't know how to cite, say, a conference proceeding, or you need someone to look over your bibliography, or you don't understand how to use a citation software like Zotero or Academic Writer or Mendeley, you're going to contact the Learning Commons. Their information is right here at the top of the page. And they not only help with citations, but a slew of other things. For you guys, they have a whole writing center. They have statistics tutoring, a lot of academic support in the Learning Commons. They do have their own website. I'm going to click here to show you what that looks like. I'm also going to put that link here in the chat. And if you scroll down, you will see the same type of information, where to email, who to call. There is a number just for graduate students, you'll see. The Graduate Writing Center has a form where you can connect with them. So you can say, hey, I need someone to work on me with chapter 2. You can use this form, connect with us to do that. And then there are some FAQs about what they do and do not do. So take advantage of the Learning Commons. They work both in person and virtually, and are here to support you. A general rule is if you have questions about resources like databases, books, journals, etc., it's a library question. If you have a question about academic services like citations, writing style, formatting a Word document, developing a topic for a paper, you're going to go to the Learning Commons. If you contact the wrong person, that's okay. We will send you over to the right place. So do not fret about that. So once again, citation help. Here is going to give you links to resources and also information for contacting the Learning Commons. Was there to help you with all things citation. fun stuff. A lot of these other things aren't going to be directly relevant to you guys because you are online graduate students. I will say that this library orientation sessions is for the undergraduates. I'm going to show you where the recording of this session will be in just a few minutes. So know that if you watch this one, it's not going to contain everything I talk about today because you guys have special needs and resources to use in your dissertation process. The last thing I want to look at over here is interlibrary loan. Interlibrary loan is essentially an agreement between libraries all across the world that says we know that not every library has everything that a student needs to research. It's just impossible. So we work with each other to find resources that students need and let each other borrow those resources. So just like you borrow books from our university library, you have the ability to borrow books and articles and chapters and essays from other libraries. We handle that for you. All you have to do is submit one of these request forms. So we have a form for an article. So that would be, say, from a scholarly journal. We have a form for a book chapter or essay. So say you don't need a whole book, you just need a particular chapter out of that book, or you just need a particular essay out of an annotated volume. You would use that form. And finally, we have an interlibrary loan book request form. And that's if you need an entire book. Say you don't really know what chapter you're going to use, or you know you're going to use the whole book. You will submit this form. Note the difference in the time it takes to receive these things. Books are going to come via snail mail. So they have to come to us and then we have to send them to you. So it takes a little bit longer to get those to you, and then you do have to send them back. So if you can, it's always fastest to do an article, book chapter, or essay request. And that's because they come in digitally. So we will send you a PDF. You can download that PDF, and then you have that thing for as long as you can save it. So that is the quickest way and perhaps the most convenient way, but do know you do have the option to get an entire book if you need it. How do we know if something qualifies for interlibrary loan? It has to be an item that the University of the Cumberlands does not own or does not have access to. If you are looking at a book that is checked out, that's not something we can interlibrary loan. That's something that you would wait until it's returned and then you would use that book. And that happens both for physical books and on some electronic books. So for example, I happen to know that this library does not own the LOL Cat Bible. If you've never seen this book, you should. It's hilarious. We see here I'm finding a book review, but I'm not finding the book. It's not in our catalog. So that means it qualifies for interlibrary loan. I would then find the publication information about this book, click on this form, and fill in all this information, submit, and it goes to our interlibrary loan coordinator. The more information you can provide, the better. If you just give us a DOI or if you just give us an article title, it's going to take us a minute to figure out what exactly you need. So all of that information that you would find in a citation, like volume, issue, date, page numbers, that's all really important for these requests. It's going to help them move along faster. So please do try to give us as much as you can when you're making an interlibrary loan request. So once again, this is only for items that UC does not have access to. You confirm that by going to the catalog, and I'm going to talk about the catalog in a moment, so don't fret about that. Any questions so far about what I have already talked about? Okay, excellent. Moving right along, let me hop off this page, and now we can actually get to our finding resources. So we have a couple of different tabs here. I'm going to talk about all of them with the exception of study room reservations. You are welcome to reserve study rooms here on campus. We have a bunch in the library, But like I said, most of you are not going to be on campus that much, so it might not be so relevant. First tab is our UC search. This is the equivalent of the library catalog, which means it has a record of everything that UC has access to right now. All of the books we own, all of the databases we subscribe to, all of the scholarly journals that we have access to, even videos and archival material. So the UC search is going to be anything that we have access to. That is where you're going to search here. That's books, articles, chapters, archival material, videos, audio, etc. We have a databases A to Z tab. And what these are subject databases, which means they are collections of works that are sorted out by subject. So here in the UC search, you would be searching across all subjects, all topics. Here in databases A to Z, you're going to be able to pick a database depending on what subject you are researching. So you can see some of these are obvious: historical newspapers, business source premier. They sort of make sense. That's where you would go for some business research. Others are not so obvious. Like if you don't know what CINAHL is, you probably you wouldn't know by just looking at the word. So that is why these things called research guides exist. Research guides are essentially web pages created by librarians to help give you a boost, get you jump started on researching a particular topic. They are going to suggest what databases are most prominent in a particular field. For example, I know that Atla Religion database is going to be where I would search for religion, ministry, etc. But if you did not know that, you could go to our research guides. You could scroll down to missions and ministry, and it gives you suggestion for databases, including the Atla Religion database. So you'll notice there are quite a few options, for these research guides. Everything from art history to counseling. Really important for you all will be the leadership studies guide. We have some science-y guides, qualitative and quantitative research, another two that are important that I'll talk about in a moment, etc. The one that I want you to particularly pay attention to is called the Dissertation Research Guide, because obviously it is directly relevant to you. It was made by me for you. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that guide right here. And I'm going to give you guys that URL in the chat so you can save that as well if you would like. The difference between this and this is that this is general library resources. These are resources that are directly relevant to doing dissertation research. So our landing page is going to give you a couple of general boxes. You're going to see a link back to all the databases that I just described, those subject databases. You're going to find a link back to all of the research guides. So say you needed to go to a particular topic, you could click here. We have a box for interlibrary loan. So like I talked about, anything that UC does not own, this is where you would go to find it. If you are in the process of finding surveys and testing instruments and measurements, we have a direct link here that takes you to our Survey Instruments tab. One FAQ that we get a lot is about dissertations written by UC students. There is no digital or physical repository for UC dissertations. We do not have a collection of them. We do not have an archive of every single one that has been written, not digitally, not physically. So if you are looking for a dissertation by a UC student, the first place to go is your department chair. They should have access, particularly to dissertations that have to do with whatever department you are doing your research in. I also believe that your 736 professor should provide an example of both a qualitative and quantitative dissertation. If that's not the case, get in touch with your graduate school director to figure that out. There is a database that catalogs dissertations and theses from around the world, institutions not only here in the US, but also across the sea. That's called the ProQuest Dissertations and Theses database. I'm just going to click to show you guys what that looks like. Gives you a general search bar. Here is the exception to the rule. Some UC students have taken it upon themselves to go ahead and upload their dissertations into this database. It's not something we do, it's something they do. So you will be able to find a few sample dissertations in this database by UC students. You would do that by searching for University of the Cumberlands. And as you can see, we're getting a few hits down here. Students of the University of the Cumberlands. Not a ton, but there are a few. So that is the one exception. You might be able to find a few more in ProQuest dissertations and theses. This database is important in general because looking at other dissertations can help you write your own. You can see how someone sort of formats their dissertation, what sections they have. You can see what methodology they use. So if it's a similar topic to yours, you can see, oh, what survey instrument did they use? Would that work for my dissertation? So this database is important. Keep it in mind when you are doing your research. And we got there from clicking here. It's also going to be in our list of databases A to Z. If you scroll down, you will find ProQuest. Sorry, ooh, there we go. You will find ProQuest dissertations and theses right here. So that's UC dissertations. We do have some suggestions for dissertation writing here, along with the TLC email address that I mentioned before to help with your writing, citation, statistics, and other tutoring needs. And finally, on the right-hand side, we have got a direct link to the Ask a Librarian form where you can ask me a question or request a research consultation or appointment. So that's our basic landing page. And then we have a few other tabs that cover more specific things for you guys. Library orientation for dissertation students is what you're doing right now, as you can see. So this is where I'm going to be posting the recording. It won't be on this tab, like I said, it will be in the dissertation guide on this tab. There is a recording from last spring posted right now. I will be posting a recording of this session so that it will be updated. I've changed a couple of things that I talk about. So give me probably by tomorrow, but maybe by Monday, depending on how crazy tomorrow is. So that is where you can find this recording. You can watch it as many times as you want. And then you can also always, of course, get in touch with me if there's something you still don't understand. So that is our orientation tab. We do have a tutorials tab. It is very similar to the tutorials tab you will see over here. And that's basically going to go over a lot of what I'm talking about tonight. So I'm not going to take a look at this tab right now. Our citation tab is what you've already seen that we got to from here. So it's going to give you those resources for citations and that contact information for the Learning Commons. Next up, we have links to our qualitative, quantitative, and applied research guides. So right now we're on the dissertation guide, but there are 3 other additional guides that are all about quantitative research, qualitative research, and applied research. So let me show you what one of those looks like. We're going to click the quantitative research. You land here with a general explanation of what it is. And then we have many tabs that are going to help you out. So databases and search terms. At some point in your dissertation process, you're going to be required to find a study or a paper that uses the same methodology or something similar to yours. Best place to look for those for quantitative research is in these databases here that are listed. You can use key terms to search for those things that are listed right here. So say I need to look at a paper that also uses a test. I could search for t-test in any of these databases and should be able to find some examples. We also have tabs for recommended journals that really emphasize quantitative research. These are other good places to look. I'm going to get back to resources for research design in a moment, so just hold on there. Data and statistics, very important. Many of you are going to be taking advantage of secondary data, also known as open access data or open-born data. So that's data that's readily available and accessible and can be used and shared by anyone for any purpose. So for example, this database, Statista, which is also listed over here, is a secondary data resource. You'll see others listed, and then you'll also see some factors that you need to consider as you are going into IRB approval and looking to use data. So these are all things to consider. It's also available as a PDF here. And then on the sides, we have different places you can search for secondary data. So a couple of databases, data sets, and other projects over here on the right-hand side. We have a whole tab for government and health data sets. So take advantage of these links when you are looking for secondary data. G-Power. At some point, you will also be using this G-Power calculator for your statistics. I am not a stats person, and I'm not exactly sure what it does, but you will be using it, and we have a link to it here. If you do need help with it, that's something you can contact the Learning Commons about. Finally, survey instruments. We're going to talk about this in just a moment from the other guide, so I'm not going to get to that just yet. The qualitative guide looks very similar. Some different things you'll find on here are, let's see, so some suggested articles and chapters that are coming directly from your professors. So take a look at those. These eBooks can be very helpful if you're doing qualitative research. So do take advantage of those direct links. And then, of course, we have our applied research, which I think is the least popular of all of the three. So I'm not going to directly click into that for sake of time, but know that it is there. So these were made actually by our librarian, who is also a professor in the PhD program. So they should reflect most of what you need as you're doing that type of research. Another place to find resources about doing research is called Sage Research Methods Core. This is a database, not where you would go to search about a topic, but where you would go to search for resources about doing research. I know that's very meta, but it is going to provide books, reference works, podcasts, videos, all these tools for how to do any type of research, including these fun little green and blue books that specialize in qualitative and quantitative research. I'm going to click into Sage Research Methods. Know that you can also find it in our database list here. But here we are for Sage Research Methods Core. Let's look at a quick lay of the land. You can click here to search for books and reference. If you like podcasts or video, you can choose those. You have a general search bar and an advanced search option. So say I am looking at something like a descriptive study. I could search here, and it's giving me books and reference materials about doing exploratory and descriptive statistics, phenomenology, intermediate statistics, and then this is one of the little green books about correlation. This is a really good series that's very helpful. So like I said, these are resources about doing research, not resources. This is not a place to do your research on your topic. You'll notice that if we go back to our home page, oh, ew, that's not what I wanted. Let's try that again. Back to our home page, you can browse by subject. So these are going to give you resources about doing research in education or about doing research in medicine, computer science, technology, any and all of those. And it also provides a couple of tools here. The one I like most is the project planner. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Essentially, this is going to walk you through your entire research process and give you resources about each of these different phases. So for example, if you are in the process of developing a research question, you can click here and it gives you all types of different inquiries. What do you want your research to tell you? What can it explore and explain? What makes a research question? It's a nice little checklist here. Same thing, for example, for data collection. So you're in the process of sending out that survey. How do I generate my own data? What is sampling? What is metadata? What is an evaluation? Ethnography. Some of these have videos and then some have explanations. So please take advantage of this, especially if you are sort of out of practice in doing this high level research. This can be a really good guide as you move through that process. So that is one of the tools, and it's the project planner. So that's Sage Research Methods. Like I said, a place to find resources about doing research. It was purchased just for dissertation students, so please do take advantage of it. All right. So now we get to the last tab, perhaps the most fun and involved tab about survey instruments. Some of you might have already been looking and have found your survey instrument. We also call them testing measurements. The words vary, but essentially anything you're using to collect statistical data. There are a couple of places to look for survey instruments. We list all of those down here in the databases box. So the first place I would recommend that you look is APA PsycTest. This is a repository, a collection of psychological tests and measurements. Some of them are available for immediate download, others are a little bit more tricky to find, and we're going to walk through an example or two just to get you the gist of it. So we're going to land here. This is what a typical database search page looks like. And you're going to use these boxes to find a survey that might be relevant. So say, for example, I'm looking at things about COVID and the workplace. I will search here, and it gives me my results that match COVID and the workplace. I could adjust these words. We're going to work on how to use search terms and other tricks and tips in a bit, so I'm not going to work on that now. I just want to show you what these surveys look like. As you can see, we have the titles highlighted. It gives you the author and the subjects. Some of them have a PDF full text. That's great. Others, it says check for full text, which means we don't have that PDF right here. Let me show you what one with a PDF looks like. We're going to, let's try this one today. So when you click on the title, this is going to take you to the detailed record. You see, that's what it's called over here. I might reference this if we're chatting one-on-one about a particular test. This page is really, really important because before you choose a test to use, there are a couple of things you need to confirm. The first is permissions. If this says no, you can't use that test. End of discussion. However, not all of them say no. Some may say may use for research or teaching. That's great. That's what you guys are doing. So in that case, you can see, you can use this survey in your dissertation research. It's going to tell you if there's a fee. If it's going to charge you money, you probably don't want to use that tool. I wouldn't. It's going to tell you, are the test items available? If it says yes, we've got them and you can pick them up and use them. If it says no, it's not necessarily a total death sentence. It just means that we might have to look a little harder to find them. It's also going to give you reliability and validity, which you're going to have to do for any instrument that you use, whether it be someone else's or your own. It is going to tell you who the author is and how to contact that author. Sometimes the permissions will say contact corresponding author. which means that you cannot use this unless you contact the author and get their permission to do so. So you're going to find that information to do so up here in the correspondence field. It's going to give you the name of the person, their affiliation, and their email. Don't be afraid to email and ask. Typically when I have seen people do it, they get pretty good responses. They might even show you exactly where to find the testing instrument if it's not available as a PDF. So do take advantage of that information here in the correspondence field. Something else that's important to note is this thing called source citation. That means the article that this test was originally used in, or that explains how this test was developed, which you're going to want to read to learn about the test, and especially if you plan on using it. So keep that in mind. Those are all important things to look at here before you even decide to use a test. If it has a PDF, that's a good sign. It means the instrument is available. I'm just going to show you what one looks like any moment now. Here we are. So it's going to give you a first page of information about the test, and then it's going to give you the actual model, survey, whatever you are using. So keep in mind, what you see is what you get here. If this is all they give you, that's all there is. You can always contact the author and say, is there anything else? But this PDF is what you get. So that is a test that has a PDF. That is generally a good sign. You will find tests that might be more relevant for your research that do not say PDF full text. They say check for full text. So in that case, what you're going to want to do is, we're going to click on this one, go back and look at this information first about the test, because you don't want to go about tracking it down if you can't end up using it, right? So this says contact the corresponding author for permissions. So we know that we're going to have to go up here and email Mohammed to ask if we can use this test. So keep that in mind. Test items available. It says no. So like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not out there, but we're going to have to work a little bit harder to get them. That's also why there's not a PDF here. Makes sense. We have our validity, reliability, methodology, and then our source citation. So if we get here and there is no PDF, the next step to track down where a test might be is to use this lovely source citation article. Sometimes tests are going to be included in this article. Not all the time, but sometimes. So what I would do in this case is copy the title, which ends here. I'm going to go to our library catalog, which I'm going to talk about the catalog more in a minute, but for this purpose, I'm going to our UC search, which is our library catalog, and we're going to see if UC owns this thing. I'm going to put quotes around it to keep the whole title together. And looky here, it has found that article for us. We do have it available online. So your next step would be to go into this record, to click where it's available full text, and to read the article and see if that instrument happens to be included in the full text or in an abstract. If it is not included in this article, your last resort is to email the author and ask, can I get a copy of these test items or survey or whatever you're looking for? Apart from that, there is no other option. We cannot interlibrary loan tests. All libraries have the same database for tests, so if it's not available here, it's not going to be available at Yale or Emory or USC. So you cannot use interlibrary loan for tests. You can use interlibrary loan for this article if we don't have it, but you can't go to interlibrary loan and say, hey, get me this test, because like I said, if we don't have it, no other library has it, the author probably has it. So I know that is a lot to sort of soak in about surveys. So if you get through that process and you're like, I can't remember what to do next, or this makes no sense, We have all kinds of instructions about how to go about finding a survey in our little survey request PDF here, a video tutorial, search basics for APA site tests. If you really get fed up and you just need a person, you can use this request inquiry form, and that's going to connect you with me. A couple other things on this page. At some point, you are going to have to find articles about your survey instrument to establish validity. Places you can do that are Mental Measurements Yearbook and Tests in Print. This is like a consumer guide to surveys and tests, so you can find information about those. I'm not going to click into it, but that's where you would go. Also look on Google to find articles about your survey instrument, Google Scholar, not just Google. One last place that is linked is this ProQuest Dissertations and Theses, which we already looked at. Sometimes students will include a copy of the survey instrument or test in their dissertation, where it's not included in a published journal article, because dissertations and theses do not have excuse me, strict page limits. So sometimes you will be able to find an instrument included in a dissertation. So that's sort of another place to kind of look if you're not having any luck in APA psych tests. One other thing to note is that the multi-factor leadership questionnaire might be a test you're interested in. A lot of people are. Please be aware that we cannot get that to you for free. It is only available commercially, which means that you do have to pay for it. There is a student discount, which you can get to over here. So you are still welcome to use it if you don't mind paying for it, but if you email me and say, hey, can you find this? I'm going to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't, unless you want to pay for it. One final thing about surveys, tests, and measurements. People have asked, well, can I just create my own if I can't find one that matches what I'm doing? My understanding is yes, but it is a very involved process because you have to establish your own test validity, reliability, etc. And that requires doing field tests and other steps. So that's something that you would contact your dissertation chair about. That's not something that I could help with. It is not done as much as people using tests that already exist, because it's more of an involved process, but it is an option. It's just not something that I can walk you through. Any questions about surveys or testing instruments? Like I said, you probably will run into them, and that's why we have this form. That's why we have Ask a Librarian. Contact us, and I will help you dive into finding a test or looking and seeing if we have permissions, all the fun questions we need to consider. All right, so we have made it through the dissertation research guide. Hooray! Now we get to the fun stuff. So you guys are going to be starting doing a literature review, looking up resources about your topics. There are a couple of places to start doing that. The first place I'd recommend going is the UC Search, which is also known as the library catalog, the place where we see any item that we have access to as UC students, faculty, and staff. You can get to that UC Search here. I will also copy that link if you wanted to bookmark it. It's not a pretty link, but that should get you there. And let's click in and take a quick look. So we land here on this page, what's called a basic search. You'll notice that there's only one bar. We're going to look at an advanced search in a minute, which can help with more complex topics. But for our purposes right now, we are in a general search. You can look for things by author. You can search by title, by publisher, by ISBN, DOI, any bibliographic information you have, you can search in this box. So I'm going to search for some resources about transformational leadership. And here's what our results page looks like. Quick lay of the land, you're going to get a list of results. Right now we have 24,000 something. It's going to tell you what type of thing that is. So here we're seeing books, articles, mainly books and articles, but you might see video, audio, podcast. It's going to give you a quick little summary of that thing. So it's going to give you the title, the author, and the date. And then it tells you where it's available. Most of our resources are going to be available online because we have so many online students. That's what we try to purchase. If you happen to run into something physical, it will give you a call number. So that's back to your Library of Congress days, navigating the shelves. But like I said, most of the stuff you guys are going to be using and finding will be available online. On our left-hand side here, you're going to have the option to limit your search. And you're going to see a menu like this in almost every database that you use. Couple of helpful things that pop up on this menu. If you would prefer not to look at anything that we just have physically in the library because you really don't want to come all the way to Williamsburg, Kentucky, you can select available online. If you are at a place where you are only looking for articles from peer-reviewed journals, you could select peer-reviewed journals. That's going to primarily focus on our scholarly sources. As you know, scholarly sources are those that are written and then submitted for review by a panel of experts before they're published, whereas a popular source is something that is meant for the general public. It's not going to be shiny, it's not going to have pictures. Scholarly things are not going to be shiny or have pictures. They're going to be very dry and academic and usually difficult to read. But that is what you're going to be using for your research. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply my filters here. And we get 12,000 results instead of 24,000. The more filters you add, the fewer results you're going to get. It's like anything like if you're on chewy.com or designerwearshoehouse.com, as you start clicking more things here, you're going to get fewer and fewer results, which can be a big help, right? Because this catalog literally has everything that UC owns. So you need to weed out things that aren't going to be relevant. Another way to weed out resources is by year. For your dissertation research, the general rule is that things need to be published within the last 3 to 5 years for you to use them. So in that case, the year 1001 is not going to work for us. I'm going to change this to 2019, click refine, and now we're down to 5,000 results. The exception to this rule is for seminal works, also known as foundational works. So this means something that was published that is critical to the field, that has laid the foundation for future understanding. So for example, if we're looking at say something about psychology, we might be citing Sigmund Freud because he's one of the fathers of psychology, or base for leadership. So that is the one exception to the 5-year rule, something that you need to use in order for your readers to understand, what you're talking about, you're explaining, and how something has developed over time. So do keep that in mind. Date is very important for dissertation research. A couple of other ways to limit over here. You can do it by resource type, so books and articles, reviews, conference proceedings. Language, if you happen to be doing a subject that you're getting a lot of German, say you're doing religion and you keep getting a lot of German resources, you can weed those out by clicking English. I'll click here, apply, and we get just a fewer results. So those are ways to limit your search. Author creator can be important if you're doing research about a person or you're trying to find works written by a person. So say I am doing research on the great late Martin Luther, the Reformer. Here are a bunch of books about Martin Luther, but I want to find things that Martin Luther wrote. I want to find his original works. In that case, I would go over here to author creator, and find his name right here. And that's going to limit my search to things that are written, by Martin Luther. This can also be helpful, say, if you're looking up Martin Luther King Jr. and you keep getting Martin Luther, you can limit to Martin Luther King Jr. instead. And it gives us papers, etc. So that's a way to distinguish things about someone versus things that are by someone. Okay, so now let's actually take a look at what one of these fun and exciting resources looks like. I want to do something that's more applicable to you guys. I don't know anyone that's doing it. We might have a religion person in here. I don't know, but we're going to go back to transformational leadership. So here is a book. Let me show you what an ebook looks like. If you click on the title, you're going to come to this page. It gives you a quick summary of the item, title, creator, subject, description. Oftentimes for a journal article, it will give you the abstract, so you can read a quick summary and see, is this actually something that's relevant, or did the title just sound good and it's not, as good as what the title sounded like. Up here, keep in mind we have a citation and a permalink button. The citation button will generate a citation for you based on whatever style you're using. You can copy it and then put it in your bibliography. And permalink. It's important to use a permalink and not this link up here that's generated. This link up here is generated by me adding search terms and subtracting things. As you can see, it's very long and complicated, and these links don't last. 3 weeks from now, this will not come back to this page. It's called link rot. It's a very fun and exciting thing. If you're in IT or if you're in library school, you might learn about it. So that's why we have these things called permalinks. So if you're making a list of resources you want to go back and read, please use the permalink. Do not use this link up here. And that goes for any database that you're using. Good practice to get into. So we see a record of the book, but how do we actually get to the dang book? You're going to go to wherever it says View Online and Full Text Availability. You might get a couple of options here. It doesn't matter which one you click. It just means that this thing lives in several different places. Several different databases have this book or this article. In this case, this ebook only lives in EBSCOhost Academic Ebook Collection. So I'm going to click on that title. It's going to ask you to log in if you have not. That's your same login you use for your email and for Blackboard. And then it takes you to the thing. You'll notice this is an online book, so you can read here by chapter and open up whatever part you would like to explore. You'll notice our nice little permalink button up here. That's another way you can save directly and go back to the same place. So that's what a book record looks like. Let's take a look at an article. So again, if we only wanted to see articles, we could click peer-reviewed journals, apply filter, and here we're getting some articles. This is from the Leadership Quarterly, which is a journal you should get familiar with. It's going to be linked on the Leadership Research Guide. Good place to go for all of that leadership stuff you guys are learning. And we see it gives us, again, our description or our abstract, so we can see, do I actually want to look at this, or is it not relevant to what I'm doing? And we're going to view it online in our full text availability. This is coming from Elsevier. And here we land. Little outline over here. And we can scroll down through the article. So that is the library catalog. Like I said, this is the collection of everything University of the Cumberlands has access to. Now, there are other places to search that are actually a little bit more convenient if you're just looking for scholarly articles. Here you can always limit your search, but you have to sift through a lot of results. We can go ahead and sort of pre-limit our search by using our subject databases. Those are going to be listed here back on our main library page under databases A to Z. So as I mentioned before, if you don't know what database is prominent in your field or which to choose, you can always go to our research guides and we will give you suggestions. But let's pretend that we are doing research in education today. I'm going to go and take advantage of the education source database. Here we are. You'll notice it's very similar to another database we landed on. If you're ever confused about which one you're in, it's going to tell you you're searching up here. You can choose multiple if you would like, but right now I'm just going to focus on education source. There are ways to limit your search down here before you even start. For example, if you wanted to limit by publication type, you could do that. This is great if, for example, you're looking for a book review. Say you're trying to figure out if you want to use a book or not. Book reviews can give you a quick summary. But we are going to start up here with our advanced search menu. So you'll see, as opposed to where our library catalog just gave us one box to start with, most databases are going to give you these 3 little boxes to give you options, because a lot of your topics are more complicated than just one phrase or one word, right? For example, let's say we are doing research on music, but we also are looking at music in mental illness or mental health. We'll do mental illness for right now. You'll notice that we have these little connectors over here. We're using the and to tell the system that we want both resources about music and mental illness, not either or. We want and. So I'm going to click search, and we get 133 results. We see our nice little limiters over here. That's where we could bring our date up to the modern times. We added a limiter, so we have fewer results. And let's click into a record. If we see PDF full text, that's great. That means we have the thing. You can also limit to full text up here, and you can limit to peer reviewed up here. So if you're not sure if it's scholarly, click that button, and if it's not there anymore, you will know. Let's take a look at what an article looks like. Treble or trouble, very clever. So we get that same type of detailed record. This is information about the source. It's not the source itself. Very helpful things in here. It's going to link authors and subjects. So anything you click on that has a link, it's going to bring you to other resources that are by the same author. So if you like a particular author, you can go and look at more things they've done. It's going to give you things that are about the same subject. This is also a great place to see how are other people describing what we're researching here. We'll see mental illness treatment. So if we clicked on this, it would generate a search for all the articles that have mental illness treatment. Essentially, subjects are tags, if that makes a little bit more sense. Librarians assign them to resources when we get them to help you find things. We have our abstract and then some other bibliographic information down here. We have our permalink. That's still there. We do have a cite button. So just like with the catalog, we can choose APA and copy this citation. You will see this export button. That does not mean export the article. That is actually going to export a citation file. So if you are using something like Zotero or EndNote, Mendeley, whatever citation software you choose, you are probably going to need to upload a citation file, and that's where you would download and upload. They come in different formats. I'm not going to get into all of that for sake of time, but that's where you would do that if you're using citation management software. Let's actually look at the article itself, which is going to be in our PDF full text. Here we are. So you'll notice the bibliographic information is up here in case we forgot what we're looking at. And we've got our entire article here. If you find an article that you really like, that's very relevant to what you're researching, please, please, please go to the references section and take a look at what is listed. This is going to essentially do research for you. This person has listed everything they've used So you can trace the scholarly conversation. So how did we get to here? Well, we looked at all of these different resources. So if you take a look at this list and you say, oh, I really like that article, or I think that would be really relevant, this field study on college marching band players' workloads. Who knew? We could then copy that title, go back to our library catalog, search, and see if we have that thing. Well, lo and behold, we do. So that is what I call capitalizing on a resource, using the references listed in another resource to sort of expand your scholarly conversation search, to look at sort of what is everybody else talking about, what is everybody else referencing. So that can save you a lot of time because you guys are probably going to have upwards of 90 or so resources. So this is a great way to do that. Take advantage of the research that somebody else has already done for you. Fun stuff. You can always download an article and save it. That's how you would save it to your desktop so that you could open it back up or print it out. Let's go back to our results list. And now I want to talk about some search strategies. So the first of these is called Boolean logic, which essentially means that we have the option to use and, or not when we're compiling our search terms. You'll notice I used and to tell the system that I want resources that both include mental illness and music. We might use or if we're searching for things that have synonyms. So for example, let's say I am looking at resources about COVID-19. There are a lot of other ways to talk about COVID-19 besides that word, right? You'll actually see a bunch of them pop up when I start typing here. It's a good little cheat for you. So you can either click here to get all the synonyms for COVID-19, or you can list those in this or box. So I could search here. I'm going to simply type in coronavirus. And it's going to tell the system we're looking for anything that has COVID or coronavirus, any synonym. So this could work for things like seniors and elderly, or let's see, another two synonyms, university and secondary school, something like that. Because we don't know how someone else is going to be describing a resource. It could be not the words that we are using. So it's important to consider what other synonyms there are. That's what or does. So you'll notice and is actually going to limit your search. It's going to give you fewer results because you want both things. Or is going to expand your results because you're giving the system options. The final Boolean phrase is not. So this is very helpful if you are doing research and you keep getting all these resources that aren't relevant to what you're doing. So for example, say we are looking at Julius Caesar as a leader. We're looking at his life and works and his dictatorship, if you want to say that. We're looking to see what kind of leader he is. But there is this very famous play that's also called Julius Caesar, right? Shakespeare. So if we keep getting things about the play, but we want things about the leader, we could use the not to tell the system, we're looking for Julius Caesar, but dear God, please do not include anything about Shakespeare and don't include anything about plays or theater. You could do that synonym thing. That's not giving me what I want right now, but you get the gist. So that's going to be a way that you can exclude things that keep coming up that you don't want to see again. So that is and, or, and not. That's called our Boolean logic. And is going to limit your search, or will expand it, and not will get rid of a few things that you'd rather not be seeing. No pun intended. A couple of other fun tricks and tips. If we are searching for something that is a phrase, so say we are looking at the polyvagal theory. If I click search right now, it might give us things that have polyvagal theory as I've typed it up here, but it might also give us things that just match theory, as you can see down here, or just have polyvagal. So what we're going to want to do is put quotation marks around this phrase. And that is going to give us only results that have those two words in that exact order, right? So any sort of multi-word phrase that you want to keep in a particular order, that's what you're going to do to keep it together. Any article title that you want to keep in that order, you would put quotes around that to keep it together. Something like child safety. You don't want to look for everything that has child or safety. You want to look for those two words together. You would put quotes around it. Another fun trick is called truncation. So think about words that have multiple endings. Something like child. So say we are looking up music therapy, and we want to look at children. If we type child and put an asterisk up here on the end, it's going to not only include child, but also any other endings. So it might include children or childlike. So that's a way to sort of tell the system you want anything that starts with that particular root, but could have multiple endings. This might help with things like leader. So you might want to see things about leaders, but anything that's also about leadership would qualify. If we put our little asterisks here, it's going to truncate. Say we are going back to doing research on PTSD, we might also let it do the or, post-traumatic stress disorder. We could even put quotes around that to keep those things together. And music. We might also want to include musical or musicians, musicality. So we would use our little asterisks to truncate and tell the system we want all of those things. We're giving the system more options. So keep that in mind. It works for a lot of words, especially if like a singular or plural. I'm just going to tell the system you will take either one. So please remember that truncation is a fun and exciting thing, and it can help a lot in your research to make it more nuanced. The final fun trick I have for you is called wildcard. Think Uno. This means that there might be a particular letter that varies in a word with different spellings. So, for example, those Brits across the sea spell this word like this, right? So we could just use our or because they're synonyms, or we can do this other fun thing called wildcard and put a little, sometimes it's a question mark, sometimes it's a pound sign. It depends on what database you're in. Usually it will give you, there is something up here that will tell you which ones work for which database. You can always just try both and see what works. But that would give us both spellings of that word. So it's another way to tell the system you'll accept multiple results. It means the same thing, it's just spelled differently. I always have trouble thinking of examples of this on the spot. Another one, if you're doing something about PTSD and women, you might want to also include men, singular, female or females. So that's a time that you could use our little question mark, or for this system, you see it's giving us that pound sign, so that's telling us it's actually the pound that works with this system. So that's called wildcard. These aren't things that you're going to use all the time, but they can help when you're, like I said, trying to nuance your search. Whew, that was a lot. So remember, there are many, many databases to search, and you are going to want to look in a good majority of them. Some are more general, things like Sage Journals has a bunch of different subjects, things like Academic Search Complete is going to cover a bunch of subjects. Some are very specific, like Business Source Premier. So that is your task, is to be going into the catalog, into each one of these databases, and look for resources. One thing I want to mention is that it's easy to get discouraged if you type in a search. Let's just type in this one. No, that's not a great example. If you only get something like 5 results, that doesn't necessarily mean there are literally only 5 articles about that thing. It might just mean that you need to play around with your words, use one of those truncations, or use a wildcard, use a synonym. It might just mean that you need to search differently, and that's okay. Even professionals who do research all the time, come to a place where, I just got 1 or 2 results. It's okay for that to happen. Just go back and edit. If you put in, for example, 4 different words connected by and don't get much, take out a word. Like I said, and is going to limit your search, so if you take out one, you might get more. So that is a very, very quick overview of doing research in academic databases. We have just about 10 minutes for questions, so I'm going to invite you guys to put anything you'd like to know in the chat. Feel free to also unmute yourselves, or you can always go back to this Ask a Librarian form and set up a consultation with me, or ask a question if you'd rather not shout it out to the peanut gallery, and we can take care of it that way. So is there any dire question right now that you would like to have answered? Okay, a lot of people ask this. So how do we get to the EBSCO host page? Thanks, Michael. We'll see you next time. So EBSCO host actually isn't a database. EBSCO host is a provider that does exactly what it says. It hosts different databases. So some databases are going to look similar because they're all hosted by this thing, but EBSCO host isn't somewhere you would search. You would be searching directly in one of these databases. Does that make sense? EBSCO host is kind of like the internet provider of the databases, if you will. But you'll notice that any of them that are hosted by EBSCO are going to look very similar. And then you can even choose more databases hosted by EBSCO from this entire list. Great question, and we get that a lot, so I'm glad you asked. Anything else? Yes, so any database hosted by EBSCO is going to take you directly to the search page. So where I would suggest you bookmark is actually this page, and then go to this tab, and that's going to be how you get to any of those searchable databases. Some of them are hosted by EBSCO, some are not. Of course. Any other questions? All right, guys. Well, you know where to find me if you need me. I am here for you, so feel free to get in touch as you move along through this fun and exciting process of dissertation research. I will be posting the recording back on that page that I referenced from our research guides on our dissertation research guide in that tab here. So that will probably be done by tomorrow. If not tomorrow, it will be done by Monday. You can go back and watch again. Or of course you can set up a time to work directly with me. Remember, I can't do your searching for you, but I can work with you to brainstorm different terms or different places to research. All right, well, I hope everyone has a lovely evening and a fantastic weekend. Oh, one more question. Yes, the Writing Center is the perfect place to go for a topic proposal draft. That is exactly who you should contact, and that is that tlc@ucumberlands.edu. You'll find it here. I will also post it in the chat so you have it there. Of course, thank you guys so much for joining me. I wish you the best as you start all this fun research, and I will see you when I see you.